Yet another day when retaliatory strikes are being exchanged between India and Pakistan. Both sides now giving statements to defend their cause. Indian side is very clear. We're very clear that it's the Pakistanis who've tried to escalate the situation, and therefore we've been forced to take out their air defense systems. With me, Group Captain Vinod, well-known military voice, and great to be welcoming him all the way from Washington, D.C., where he is right now. Thank you so much for taking time out today, Group Captain.
Thank you, Bhupendra. It is great to be with you after a long time.
Yes.
And thank you for having me on your show.
I wish the situation was different, Captain Vinod, because look at where we are. So first and foremost, just help me understand, there is a lot of statements and counter statements which are being made. What is the reality? Pakistan hitting at India and India hitting back at Pakistan. Can you tell us exactly what has happened in these last few hours?
It's a great question, Bhupendra. I'll tell you, in fact, yesterday, I think I was talking on your channel with somebody else. See, we had viable targets to hit. Those viable targets we have discussed ad nauseum. Right from POJK to across Bhavalpur and north of Lahore in Muridke. Those targets are not only viable targets, Bhupenji, for us, it is also a viable target for even Pakistan. Half of these people whom we took out were a thorn in the backside of Pakistan for a while. In fact, during the fiasco of Imran Khan, most of these people were the ones who instigated people to go against their own force. So these are the people with whom the Pakistani establishment, as they are called, are forced to be with, and yet they can't be against. So those are the targets we took out. Now, in retaliation, Bhupeji, what is the viable target that Pakistani military has? In our case, terrorists hit us, we hit terrorists back with military, because we don't have another set of terrorists to hit these terrorists. So when you have a military hitting the terrorists back, now their military countering is absolutely very, very clear. In fact, some of the DC officials and friends were there with me. I was telling them, see, when terrorists hit us and we hit terrorists back, because we hit terrorists back, now the Fauj hits us back means that Fauj and terrorists are hand in glove. It is a no-brainer. Right. So they hit us back with the military force, which itself is the biggest mistake that they have made. Secondly, Benji, yes, is that they hit us on the civilian target. If you remember, Poonch was badly hit. The number of dead bodies that Poonch saw was probably equal or more than what we saw in Pahalgam. So it was incumbent upon us that we protect our people living in the border areas. Therefore,
what I'm trying to now understand, you're right, Group Captain Vinod, that Pakistan has engaged itself in incessant acts of unprovoked firing, hitting out at civilians, contrary to the public statements, the public posturing which is being taken. But I just want to go across to Lieutenant General Rameshwar Rao also, who's joining us live, and he's on the way. So, General Rao, let me first ask you and get some clarity on this. Is it that what we are seeing unfold in front of us, is this an act of war? Are we at war with Pakistan, General?
Yes, Chaubey. If you really ask me, the way Pakistan's behavior has been so far, ever since we had hit up their 9 targets yesterday, if you recollect, India has very categorically told 5 nations, United States, Russia, Britain, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. These 5 nations were taken on board before we started our hitting campaign from 105 to 130. That means precisely for 25 minutes last night, when we had hit up those targets and neutralized those 9 terrorist camps. Now, thereafter, immediately after the attack was over, once again, India took these 5 nations on board that is US, Russia, Britain, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, and told these five nations that look, what we had to do was that we wanted to carry out a retribution for the act done by Pakistan in our Pahalgam, and we have done that job. Now, for 25 minutes, we have hit their 9 terrorist targets, and that's it. Hereafter, if Pakistan retaliates in any manner whatsoever, if we will then be coming heavily on them, because it means now they are provoking war, and that exactly is what is happening right now.
But once if you look at the pictures and even the statement, if I was to restrict myself to the statement which is coming up from our side, the Indian side, because you don't know,
Yes.
pictures can often end up giving you a misleading picture, misleading story. If
Yes.
we are now, to quote the report, neutralizing the air defense mechanisms across Pakistan, whether it was in Karachi or in Lahore,
Yes.
how do you think the international community would be responding to this?
You see, what is happening now is that because of the technology which has come about, it is not really coming out to the fact of crossing the borders, or that is LC or the IB. It is not the question of hitting the ground targets with using the hard kinetic power and all that. Therefore, it's like a technology war. India also, in our actions of hitting those targets, none of the assets of ours, military assets nor the air force assets, crossed anything or violated anybody's sovereignty, except for the fact that we were able to carry out this firing from what we call standoff distances. And because of the standoff distance, nobody had to cross anything. The air platform just had to go up in the air, and from there fire those missiles, which will go and hit those targets accurately. Now, because of this, what Pakistan has tried to do thereafter is they have also carried out certain drone attacks. There is some evidence of they are trying to attack that Amritsar field, and some drone was found over there. So the point here now is crossing of the borders of the airspace and then declaring war. What is happening is the technology is being used from a standoff distances, and because of that, even these acts have to constitute an act of war, rather than just thinking that it is one of those things.
And can you throw some light? Because the information which is trickling in, General, is that India has used weaponry to neutralize the air defense system of Pakistan. How do you think that would have happened? Because the Pakistani side is pointing to the fact that we have unleashed our drones. Can you throw some light on what kind of ammunition that would have been used to neutralize the Pakistani air defense systems?
To my understanding, the similar kind of drones would have been used by us to neutralize their air defense systems. Now, the issue here is, Chaubey, that our air defense system, which is much more hardened with 3 layers of protection vis-a-vis the Pakistan, and therefore we've been able to penetrate through. If you really see our attack on their terrorist camps also, they were not able to intercept a single missile or a single drone of ours which went in for absolutely pinpointed accuracy to neutralize those targets. And therefore, it is quite possible now in today's world that we've been able to do the same thing to neutralize the air defense of what is around Lahore. Now, this all has been done, let me tell you, as a preparatory tool, that in case we really have to launch an air campaign much deeper inside than the standoff attacks, then all these neutralization of the air defense systems of Pakistan would help us, and we'll be able to sort of operate our air force with impunity over their skies. And therefore, that is a...
Well, that's the motive. But Group Captain Rose, let me come back to you. With all this action unfolding here in South Asia, and since you're in DC, how are the US lawmakers? What's the political buzz that you're picking up in DC, sir?
Yeah, see, people out here, and especially in the Oval Office and Secretary of State offices, they were, remember, maybe a decade or a decade and a half ago, pro-Pakistanis and no, not pro-us. So it's then post, maybe a few more years before that, post 9/11, things changed. But even today, Bhupenji, they are like kind of neutral, with the needle pointing maybe slightly towards India. So that itself is the framework in which we are talking. So initially, when the 3 Rafales were shot down, fake news was thrown around. These guys picked it up. Or I had a suspicion, in fact, I was telling them also, I had a suspicion probably the External Affairs Office of Pakistan paid some of these, to be developed in the Western world, that they brought down so many aeroplanes. In fact, I even heard, you will not believe it, a number of 21. I just burst out into, laughter. That is the kind of, what do
So
I say?
what I'm trying to understand is that is the American political establishment, given the fact that Donald Trump's public stated position is that he's anti-war, with this escalation now building up, what role does Donald Trump have here, if any?
Very good question, Bhupenji, because we have to read exactly. See, Donald Trump says what is on his mind. I mean, he doesn't mince words. That is the best thing about him. There is no diplomacy in what Donald Trump is saying. Donald Trump said very clearly, it is tit for tat. He understood and he said it so, kid, you hit them, they hit you back. Now leave it at that. That was the clear-cut direction to from the father or the great grandfather of Pakistan to the Pakistan and the Pakistani establishment. Leave it at that. They did not heed to his advice. Remember Pressler Amendment. Pressler Amendment put a stop to all the US equipment that was supplied to Pakistan to be used. And in fact, there was a time, Bhupenji, in the late 90s, early 2000, the F-16 serviceability state came down to 20% because getting any support from America because of Pressler Amendment, because they once again went outside the framework of why the F-16s were supplied to them. F-16s were supplied to them for anti-terror operations, not against operations against India, and exactly the same reason why the AIM-120 was also given within the same framework. So the Americans are peeved about it. And like General said, we kept these people in the loop even before the operation. So our, external management, thanks to Minister who's been the helm in external affairs, knows full well how to handle these people. So that's why he said, no, we want, we don't want preachers. So that itself is a very big message. So these are few things that we plugged the hole, and that is why probably things are falling, in our favor rather than in Pakistan's favor. Though initially, like I said, it was sort of, rolling in their favor.
General Roy, where do you see this headed now? Pakistan, we hit Pakistan. Pakistan is trying to hit us. We're hitting back Pakistan. Where is all this headed, sir?
Chaubey, let me just take you little back, the symbiotic relationship that US had with Pakistan that no longer exists. And Pakistan, it appears, is still living in denial, is still living in the history. Because now Pakistan has lost its relevance as a frontline state of US for any purpose that US have used them in the past. And because of that relevance having gone, because of the Taliban coming into Afghanistan, China's power having gone, so much matrix has gone up hugely. Now they don't need this Pakistan, in a manner that they did earlier. So the symbiotic relationship that they had together, that is gone. As of today, let me tell you, Pakistan is heading for disaster. And the reason for saying so is that Pakistan's domestic compulsions have pushed them into a situation where they're already down and out, and they are not able to manage anything within their own country, nor are they able to manage the economy, neither their security situation, the problems in you see, therefore, right now the Pakistan is in absolutely lowest possible situation in terms of economy, in terms of their security, because Baluchistan is burning. The Tehrik-e-Taliban of Pakistan is against them. The public is against the army. The Taliban across the Durand line is hitting at Pakistan army. They will not be able to muster up the similar kind of force on their western borders. They have to manage two borders now, the eastern border and the western border. And in this situation, they have been simply pushed into it. You see, once India had stuck them on those 9 terrorist camps, Pakistan had a situation, devil and the deep sea. They were standing in between. If they don't do anything, that it appears that the situation is escalating, because India had scarcely put entire onus on escalation Pakistan, because we said that after hitting terrorist camps, we have nothing else to do. But they don't have equivalent of those targets. They can go in for either our counter force targets or counter value targets. Now, what they are trying to do is go against the counter force targets, which is even more dangerous. Counter force targets are those which are affecting our armed forces capabilities. And those are called counter force targets. The counter value targets are economic targets, So they have started now hitting towards our counter force targets. And in that, I think they have touched a very soft chord, and now they're going to face the music.
Okay. Well, let's just hope. Let's just hope that all this is headed finally in the space of some resolution. A prolonged conflict for a growing economy like India can never be good news for anyone. But gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this rather disturbing day and turning the spotlight on what is really going on. Thank you so much.